The girl opened the hidden safe, which the man had kept hidden from everyone his entire life. After 3 weeks of chatting and openly flirtatious messages, 14 years old Hayley Stark meets up with a 32-year-old guy named Jeff. From their online conversation, you can tell that the interests and topics for conversation aren't typical for her age. She's so good at teasing him with her way of talking that she practically forces him to agree to the meetup, just to prove she's not a little girl, but has a fully formed personality. Later on, Hayley is enjoying cake at a cafe where their planned meeting is supposed to happen. With chocolate smeared on her face, she asks the waiter for extras, but she's interrupted by a pleasant male voice telling her not to be greedy. The girl turns around nervously and, with a trembling voice, says her companion's name, shyly looking down. Her modesty borders on amazing resilience and confidence, which ignites in Jeff an endless desire to delve into this mystery. The young girl tells Jeff that the cake is really delicious and offers him to try some. Without hesitation, he runs his hand over her plump lips, wiping off the chocolate, and eagerly licks his finger in confirmation of her words. Glancing at the handsome man, the girl concludes that with such a look, he doesn't need to meet people online, but Jeff objects to that statement because he's tired of deceptive pretty faces. So, before meeting up, it makes sense to get to know each other online. While witty remarks fly back and forth like ping-pong balls at their table, a photo of the missing Donna Maurer hangs on the cafe wall. As they're getting ready to leave, Hayley notices a green t-shirt in the display window that she really likes, and Mr. Culver buys it for her despite her embarrassment. The inscription on the shirt, Nighthawks, gets her thinking about the charms of nightlife, and she shares her desire to grow up quickly so she can take responsibility for her actions and movements independently, rather than relying on her older sister Lindsay and her car. Additionally, she complains to her new friend about missing her father's university lecture on medicine and a concert by her favorite British band, Goldfrapp. The man mentions that he has a recording from one of the songs performed by this band at a concert, which sparks Hayley's immense desire to go to his place and listen to the famous musicians together. Jeff Culver doesn't rush to invite the girl over, hinting that good things are worth waiting for, both in terms of listening to music and considering the age of his very young companion. So, Hayley decides to provoke him by casually showing her belly in the fitting room.
In your dreams, little girl.
Little girl? Whatever happened to how mature I was?
Packing the gift into her book-stuffed bag, the girl explains why she isn't afraid to go to his place, arguing that, firstly, they've seen each other, and secondly, he wouldn't dare to harm her because he's a sensible young man. And thirdly, why not follow her therapist's advice and take a risky step? As they approach Jeff's car, Hayley considers it yet another reason to go with him, because he is such a cool car. Upon hearing these words, Jeff starts to bow to her logic, and calling the young companion his queen, he unquestionably gets down on his knees and lowers himself further to kiss her shoe. Enjoying a bit of control, Hayley eventually suggests getting into the car and going. As she fastens her seatbelt, her expression becomes stern for a moment, then softens again. After a while, they arrive at his stylish house with bright furniture and walls adorned with his photographs in red, blue, and yellow. While the girl listens to a unique recording from her favorite band's concert, the homeowner brings her a drink, but Hayley refuses it, as she's been taught at school not to drink what hasn't been prepared by oneself. Instead, she offers him a screwdriver cocktail of her own making. The couple sips their drinks, and suddenly the girl becomes curious about all the girls in his photographs and why they're hanging in his house. After questioning, Stark learns that they're all models, displayed on the walls only as part of the photographer's good portfolio. In reality, Jeff has had only one girl whom he loved deeply, and it's clear from his face that he is still in love with her. Hayley realizes that if this girl is so important to him, she's probably in one of the many photographs in a very personal place. She heads to the bedroom and takes down a portrait from the wall, on the back of which is written a name and a date, March 19th. Janelle was a model who left him as soon as she got a contract with Ford. Seeing the home mini studio where many works were created, Stark asks to be photographed, but initially gets a whole lecture on how a model should behave during a shoot and how she should reveal a part of her soul to the camera lens. While the man talks, Hayley notices that he's having difficulty speaking and even blinking. So, she sends the photographer to get the equipment, while she takes out a disc from her bag and loudly plays mentally heavy music, filling the room with its sounds. With her behavior, the girl infuriates the owner of the house. Not only does she want to pose outside of the studio, but instead of calmly fulfilling his requests, she randomly jumps on the sofa, little by little taking off her clothes. The man tries to calm her down and even shouts in a commanding tone for her to sit down. The girl obeys, but the photographer, unable to cope with his condition, faints, which makes Hayley very happy. A man regains consciousness sitting on a computer chair with a bag on his head. When Hayley releases his groaning head, she tells him to calm down and tell her everything when he's ready. Jeff thinks it's all a game, but a teenage girl convinces him otherwise and shows him a bottle of sleeping pills, and a minute later she carefully gives him water, completely confusing the hostage. Hayley begins to talk about a movie killer who is trying to cover up the crime, but a small piece of evidence stuck in a drainpipe proves his involvement, which means that if Jeff does not confess himself, Hayley will find evidence of dirty deeds without his help. After all, she does not understand how one can live peacefully among photographs of half-naked young women with whom, according to him, there was no intimate relationship. After these words, the man begins to call for help.
Help! Help!
At this moment, the girl sprays his throat with some means to keep him quiet and threatens to use bleach next time. Hayley gradually reveals her cards and admits that all actions are carefully planned, even the vacation and work shift of his neighbors. Jeff learns that the girl created many different chats to communicate with him and analyzed his actions. When the photographer found out that she was slightly older than Hayley, he immediately stopped communicating. To such statements, the man replies that he was simply bored and uninterested, but had a lot in common with the girl. Stark immediately argues that all his words about musical groups were copied from some website, which indicates his interest in her. Hayley puts on his jacket and glasses and sits down on the sofa to continue reading her moral lectures regarding his perverted hobbies. Jeff's excuses that he was trying to impress her did not pass the test, because no matter how one may say, his efforts are aimed at a minor who barely knows what a menstrual cycle is. The photographer offers to call all his clients and they can confirm that he is a good man. However, Hayley does not give in to these persuasions, knowing for sure that the intruder will not spoil where he lives, because of all the pretty girls, only she turns out to be his addiction. Jeff makes an excuse that the girl's behavior provoked him to such a reaction. Hearing his words, the girl loses her temper and for the first time calls him a pedophile who gives the same excuses as hundreds of others. There is no excuse for a person who indulges a child who wants to drink alcohol, much less a little girl who chooses the wrong type of behavior, especially if you are an adult mentally and morally mature man. When asked to untie the ropes, Hayley refuses and says that when she gets ready to leave, she will definitely invite someone who will do it. Stark takes Jeff to his bedroom and meticulously examines the dresser shelves. There, she finds personal letters from his beloved Janelle, who broke up with him in one of the letters. In his next justification, Jeff suggests the girl to look at other photo works, such as important nature conservation sites, but this still doesn't affect Hayley's decision. After carefully rereading the letters and searching through the computer, the girl tries to determine where this little sentimental detail, which could provide a clue, might be hidden. Pictures downloaded from the internet are missing from the desktop. What is he hiding? Jeff assures that he has no need to hide anything since he lives alone. However, Hayley doesn't accept it and practically turns the entire house upside down. She doesn't find even the slightest hint of adult movies, although it's quite natural for guys. Then, she thinks that his arousal factor might be the photos on the walls, but it's still not what she's looking for. Hayley Stark abruptly starts searching for a hiding place in the photographer's house under tables and cabinets, in dresser drawers, and under the bed. There, she finds a gun, which she thoughtlessly leaves on the bed before heading to the living room. After some time, Hayley finds a decorative corner filled with sea stones, under which a safe is hidden. When the girl approaches Jeff to find out the PIN code, he tries to influence her psyche. He suggests that her parents don't love her as much as they love her older sister, and that's why she seeks companionship with an adult man who reminds her of her father and on whom she can take out her frustrations. The girl aggressively reacts to these words and asks him to stop, but the guy suggests untying him and discussing her childhood trauma while sitting on the couch, after which she is free to calmly go home.
You wouldn't be mad at me?
I just want you to look at what you're doing.
Hayley timidly approaches the man, her demeanor suggesting that he now has control over the situation. Just as he starts to believe it, the girl bursts into laughter right in his face, proving her dominance once more. She tries to crack the safe's password using important numbers for the photographer, Janelle's birthday, her phone number, and the digits in reverse order. However, that's not all. Observing the man's behavior, young Stark realizes how sentimental Jeff is. Therefore, the numbers from the back of the photograph on the wall become the primary candidates for the lock code. Hearing these assumptions, the man freezes in silent anticipation. The month, date, and year when the photographer met his girlfriend or the day of their first intimacy. The coveted click of the opening lock delights Hayley, but at the same moment, she freezes in horror at her discovery. In the photos, there's a missing girl poster of Donna Maurer, a CD with no label, and images of other girls. Calling the man a sick individual, the girl sits beside him, carefully examining photos of those she once knew. Seizing the opportunity while Hayley is within reach, Jeff delivers a swift kick to her side. While the girl is writhing on the floor in pain, he goes to his bedroom and takes out the gun that she left on the bed, and when he returns, she is no longer there. Hayley quietly creeps up to Jeff with cling film in her hands and wraps it around the puzzled man's face as he tries with all his might to pin the girl between the chair and the wall. Despite the unbearable pain, she manages to make the man lose consciousness. After a while, Culver lies on a metal table, with his hands and feet tied. His bottom is completely exposed and the ice pack numbs the genitals. Jeff asks Hayley to call the police because he is ready to turn himself in. However, the girl doesn't see the point in taking those actions because she believes the most severe consequence he'll face is going to prison, attending group therapy, and being prescribed pills that reduce his potency. That seems insufficient punishment to her. In her opinion, this is not enough punishment for people like him. On the table near the body, there's shaving foam, a razor, and nail scissors. The girl plans to shave the surgical area to perform a mechanical castration armed only with a couple of her father's medical books. Jeff realizes the horror of what's happening and begs her not to do it. The schoolgirl hesitates a bit on the surgical intervention because the ice hasn't sufficiently numbed the nerve endings. While waiting for the desired effect, Hayley writes an email to Janelle from her own account, pretending to be Jeff's current girlfriend. She writes that she's noticed Jeff still pining for his ex, and if there's any chance for them to salvage their relationship, she won't interfere with their love. She attaches photos to the email, including one of Donna, so that Jeff's ex might stumble upon her own pictures. After finishing the email, she reads it aloud to Jeff with naive intonation, but she doesn't actually send the email. Taking off the ice pack, she's pleased with the condition of the man's genitals. Since castration is considered one of the simplest surgeries performed universally, even by farmers, she believes she can do it too. Upon hearing this, Jeff starts calling for help, and Stark, as promised, sprays chloroform into his mouth and orders him not to struggle. When Hayley begins the operation, Jeff offers her all his money, gadgets, anything she wants, but she still refuses his offers. She grabs some vodka to disinfect the castration area and promises to do it carefully, but realizing that blood might start gushing again after shaving, the girl applies cold once more. Hayley herself climbs onto the roof for some reason, catching the attention of a neighbor trimming roses in her garden. Taking advantage of the girl's absence, Jeff tries to move the table towards the bedside table where the phone lies, but he doesn't manage it before she returns. Then he simply asks to be killed, but she has other plans for him. She moves him to another room and sets up a tripod with a camera pointed at the operation site so that a photographer can witness all stages of his punishment. Unexpectedly, Jeff begins to recount a childhood story that shaped him into who he is today. When little Jeff was 9 years old, he spent the summer with Aunt Denise and her children, aged 4 and 5. The youngest child in their family was Linny, who adored playing a particular game. She'd leap out of the bath to tickle him, shouting the goblins are attacking, and he couldn't do anything because he was afraid of hurting her. Then one day, her mother caught them playing this game and started yelling at her daughter, demanding she immediately return to the bath, while grabbing Jeff's hand and pulling him into the kitchen. Denise lit the burner, took off the boy's pants and raised his reproductive organ over the fire. He felt the dirt of her hands on his body and heard the hiss of tears rolling down his cheeks in pain, and the next day his mother came to pick him up and he never saw Aunt Denise ever again. Hayley listens impassively to the story and continues putting on gloves. Jeff once again pleads with the little girl not to perform the surgery, as she's not a doctor. He cries and begs to be handed over to the police, to be let go, to leave town, but she remains steadfast. After all, Hayley can't let go of a man who may have left Donna Mauer's body to rot somewhere. The photographer screams that he didn't kill her, but it's too late. He pounds the table with his hands and roars in despair, yet Stark asks the patient not to move, or he'll bleed out before help arrives. A silence falls, in which only the sound of scissors slicing through soft tissues can be heard. Removing one testicle after another, the girl effortlessly completes the castration and dictates to him the name of a website that explains how to live after such a procedure. Hayley holds the cups containing his genitals and suggests watching them amusingly bounce on the ground, but as she approaches the front door, she stops, not wanting any of the animals to mistake the organ for their dinner. So she grinds it up in the garbage disposal and heads to the shower, as she's terribly sweaty from the excitement during the procedure. Before this, she hydrates Jeff with water to replenish his fluid loss and predicts his dismal future in which he remains without intimacy, beach outings, and in fear of whether anyone knows his story. In response, the man threatens to find the girl, but his threats don't frighten her at all. As she heads to the shower, Jeff struggles to free his hands from the ropes. Upon liberating himself, he sees all parts of his body intact, with the pain caused by the clamp on his genitalia. Crying tears of joy, the man hastily puts on his pants with relief and grabs the cassette with the fake surgery video. Later, he finds the phone and dials the emergency service, but hesitates to press the call button. Instead, he takes a scalpel and heads to the bathroom, but doesn't find anyone. The girl once again sets up an ambush and attacks from behind, pushing him into the water-filled bathtub. Putting in a lot of effort, she shocks him with a stun gun to his chest and proceeds to wipe her fingerprints off items in the house. Regaining consciousness, weakened Jeff crawls towards her, and receiving another electric shock to his back, he collapses unconscious once again. After tidying up the house, Hayley types a self-exit note on the computer, purportedly from Culver, stating that he attempted to shoot himself but failed even at that. Once most of her tasks are done, Hayley calls Janelle and introduces herself as a police lieutenant. She asks if the woman knew the photographer Jeff Culver and requests her to come over to help clarify the situation regarding her old acquaintance. Some time later, taking advantage of Jeff's groggy state, the girl puts a noose around his neck and places him on a stool, supporting him with the rope structure. When Jeff comes to, she loosens the structure, leaving only the noose. Jeff calls the girl insane, and she agrees with his conclusion, reminding him that her doctors think the same. At that moment, the doorbell rings, and Hayley hurriedly tapes his mouth shut as he starts screaming loudly. The smiling girl greets his neighbor 3 houses down, Judy Tokuda, who brings his favorite cookies from her scout daughter. Hayley pretends to be his niece, pays for the treats, and explains Jeff's absence by attributing it to his severe gastrointestinal condition. When Judy inquires about their roof, Stark answers that she was fixing a leak, despite no rain being forecasted. Apologizing quickly to the neighbor, the girl enters the house. Jeff assures his inexperienced kidnapper that due to her misleading answers, the neighbor has figured everything out and will definitely return. However, Hayley is interested in another matter. Why, when Jeff frees himself from the ropes, does he choose not to escape and call the police, but instead stay in the house and attack her? His actions speak only of one thing: his guilt. Therefore, she suggests leaving him alone in the noose with Donna's photograph and the confession she typed up in his name, to wait until someone finds him or to take a step forward and end his life. In exchange, she promises to clear his name in the eyes of others by removing all evidence. The photographer refuses, as he didn't kill Donna. On the contrary, he starts accusing Hayley of everything, who inherited the horror, and suggests she'll have to look over her shoulder for the rest of her life. In response, the girl informs him that as a pedophile with evidence against him, no one will even pay attention to her, and if they do, she'll hire such protection that she'll face a maximum of 2 years of community service, and afterward, Judy Foster will play her in a movie based on a true story. The more she talks, the closer she gets to Jeff, who once again takes advantage of the situation, wrapping his legs around fragile Hayley's neck. Stark maneuvers in a way that allows the man to firmly stand on the table. He frees his neck and hands, grabs a large kitchen knife, and starts hunting the teenager. The girl runs around the house and hides in the kitchen again, taking the ropes with her and turning the music player to full volume. When Jeff rushes into the house to turn it off, he realizes that Stark is climbing onto the roof. In that moment, rage consumes him because Hayley looks so much like Janelle and drives him just as crazy. In his fury, he repeatedly stabs the photograph, then starts thanking Hayley for being right and giving him the chance to understand who he really is. While Janelle heads towards Jeff's house, he climbs onto the roof where Stark awaits him. He lunges at the girl with a knife, but as always, she's one step ahead and aims a gun at him. Initially confident she won't shoot, Jeff begs to be killed, but the girl reminds him that he should fear not her, but Janelle, who will be here any minute as she personally invited her. However, Hayley offers him a way out, showing the noose tied to the chimney. Another attempt to threaten the girl by claiming he has full information about her and her family leads Jeff nowhere, as Hayley makes it clear that everything said about her is a lie. All he sees before him are all those girls he groped, beat and took advantage of. Jeff sharply drops to the roof as he sees Janelle's approaching car and begins to shake with fear at the decision before him. If he ends his own life, the girl will eliminate all evidence to avoid tarnishing the man in the eyes of his beloved. But if he doesn't, Hayley will simulate an assault by an adult man on her young body and, stripping naked, head towards his ex. Hearing Janelle's voice, Jeff tells her what happened to Donna, as Hayley claims that ending his life is the only way out. It turns out he didn't actually kill the girl. He was just watching and wanted to photograph her, but another guy prevented him from doing so. Trying to bargain for his life, he offers to give up the name of the real criminal and help her find him. However, Hayley already knows everything and finds it amusing that just before ending his life, Aaron names Jeff as his killer. Mr. Culver continues to justify himself, but it's already pointless. Hayley loops the noose around his neck and tightens it firmly. She tells him not to worry, as she'll take care of everything, and Jeff takes a step forward. Once she's sure the man has ended his life, Hayley Stark simply leaves, not even bothering to clean up his dirty history. After all she needed to do was deal with 2 rapists, because the law isn't strict enough to give them sufficient punishment. Do you think Hayley did the right thing by committing lynching of the photographer, or should the young girl have handed the man over to the police? Share your thoughts in the comments below, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss another exciting story.